Hello and welcome to the New Indian Express Online. I'm Bansy Kalappa. With me is the CEO of B.PAC, Ms. Revathy Ashok. Welcome on the show.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So you had met with the Chief Secretary from B.PAC, and B.PAC we haven't been hearing too much, but suddenly we hear that B.PAC has met the Chief Secretary, the new Chief Secretary, Ms. Shalini Rajneesh, and there have been some core issues that B.PAC has been concerned about, one of which is how well or how comfortably you move or how efficiently you move in Bengaluru. And mobility being an issue, there has always been this concern that, as compared to, let's say, Chennai or Delhi or Mumbai, Bengaluru's traffic moves really slowly. So, did mobility feature in your conversation with her? Is B.PAC concerned about this?
Well, no conversation with the government can be complete without a big discussion on mobility.
Mobility, absolutely.
B.PAC did a year ago, we did a 10,000 people survey, and uniformly people, men, women, people of all categories opined mobility was the single largest issue for them. After that, waste management and urban flooding, these were matters of big concern. So these were the three large themes on which we based our discussions. And we were happy to note that the Chief Secretary was very well aware of the issues concerned, and we did have assurances from her that topmost attention would be given to these three issues in a very time-bound manner. So that gave us a lot of confidence. Regarding mobility itself, I think B.PAC has always been of the view that we must move people, not vehicles.
Absolutely.
And that requires interventions in different directions. One is policy intervention, and then there is the infrastructure intervention, where there is hard infrastructure and soft infrastructure. So let me talk about the policy interventions first. We have the BMLTA bill, which was passed on the last assembly session of the previous government, and for 1.5 years it's been sort of gathering dust. And we really...
Is it because of the change of government?
Yes, obviously it was because of the change of government, and then they had all the welfare schemes and all getting implemented. They were extremely busy. So we did not push that at that point, but we felt now was the right time to push this forward very aggressively and bring it to their notice that in a complex environment like Bangalore, which is so widespread, an organization like BMLTA is very, very crucial to coordinate different mobility means of mobility, because you cannot have silo working between BMTC, BMRCL, K-Ride, etc. There has to be an overarching body which looks at mobility, moving people, not vehicles. So with that in mind, really looking at how do you mobility can be a very big equalizer, economic equalizer. The second was DULT had done phenomenal work, and we were the first ones to propose something like the walkability bill, active mobility bill it is called. It is a very far-reaching citizen-centric bill which takes care of citizens' rights to be able to walk freely without getting tripped up by bad footpaths, potholes, etc., etc. So it is a very powerful bill, and we really impressed upon her that it is important that this bill be taken up to the assembly, passed by the cabinet, taken up to the assembly, and this is an important one which the previous government could not complete, but at least we are hoping this government will at least take it up. It's a very far-reaching one. The third was we were the first to implement the EV policy in the country, but in terms of implementation we are far behind. Of course, Karnataka has one of the largest installations of EV charging stations, but not much by way of policy nudges which pushes people to sort of adopt EV in a big way, so that we can remove the proliferation at least of two-wheelers. And the Chief Secretary wanted to know what are the things that we would propose. We said, why don't you provide priority parking for EVs? Why don't you incentivize or put a roadmap for shared mobility, like all the shared mobility operators give them a roadmap that in 3 to 5 years they must move to EV completely. These are things that we can push. Give incentives for people on two-wheelers to move from normal ICE to EV.
Yeah, precisely.
So, and also autos. For the first time, we are seeing more auto drivers, EV autos getting registered than ICE autos. So, there are some green shoots, but these were the things that we actively discussed on the policy front.
Okay. Now, as far as solid waste is concerned, Bengaluru has believed that its solid waste can go into landfills in the periphery of Bengaluru. But B.PAC has a different idea, and you've always advocated for a more, acceptable and user-friendly way of disposing this. So, what exactly is your plan, and did it figure in your talks with the Chief Secretary?
Yes.
Okay.
So, as you know, waste management again in our survey came out to be one of the key concerns for multiple reasons. It's visually very demeaning for anybody to see the kind of garbage lying around. It's a health hazard.
Absolutely.
It has multiple ramifications. It's environmentally not sustainable. For all these reasons, we impressed upon her, first of all, we must have zero tolerance for public littering.
Yeah.
And we must take strict action against people who litter. The citizens at large are not littering. There will be irresponsible people who will drop things, but large scale littering is happening in an organized way by transporters who are picking up from various bulk waste generators and going and dumping it at the nearest open spot where nobody is looking or somebody is turning a blind eye.
Absolutely, especially like
And
poultry
everybody
waste.
knows who is dumping also.
Yeah.
So we have enough information to know that people also know, but they don't want to take action on it.
Absolutely.
We have been assured that multiple cameras have been placed and more will be placed, and all those will be pressed into service, and these cameras will try to identify the people who are dumping large scale, and they will be brought to book. And because these cameras some of them belong to the police, some of them belong to other people, these feeds are going to be taken and processed separately for different purposes and handed back to the respective organizations. So we are hoping that something will come out of these kinds of technology interventions. The other thing that we have always believed in is segregation at source, which I think, though visually we still have a lot of garbage, I think the city does quite a good job compared to other cities.
So about 80% is segregated?
I would
Or
say
is it
more like
90%?
60% would be segregated, but it is much better than most other cities.
Most other cities.
It's a complex city, but I think what happens after segregation, you need full traceability till where it lands. The other point that we believe is that wet waste should not move beyond the ward, because the more volume it generates and you take it outside to places outside the city, I think it creates a lot of environmental issues, because the quantum of wet waste and the accompanying smell that emanates and the leaching that happens has all many ramifications for environment. And we do believe that even if they move it there, it has to be first semi-processed, the moisture content has to be removed, dried and then transported, rather than transporting the wet waste as is.
So the Chief Secretary was proactive on that as well.
Well, I think we will get to know what the plans are really. I think there are other proposals to have at different corners of the city scientifically managed waste, but it has so far not been successful. So I think we need to wait and watch to see what happens.
Okay. Another serious issue has been urban flooding.
Yes.
And BPAC has been very concerned about urban flooding. So how do you plan to look at this subject, from?
Urban flooding is going to be increasingly very important issue for not only Bangalore but all cities in India, many cities across the world, because we are concretizing at such a fast pace without thinking how water will drain off.
Absolutely.
So, one of the very successful projects has been the K100 project, which has taken one Rajkaluwe stream and ensured that it creates a very good walkway on both sides, cleaned up the whole thing. Most of the garbage, sewage that flows into the Rajkaluwe in that section, the first experimental K100 section, has 90% of the sewage has been removed. If we can replicate the success with all the Rajkaluwes across the city, I think it will be a game changer. The city will have walkable areas of waterways across the city, which is what it was once upon a time. We will reclaim that. It will be urban common. And I think the Chief Secretary was extremely supportive of that and wanted to take this in a big way. So that is a good one. I think we have all the regulations for rainwater harvesting in place, but I think serious implementation of rainwater harvesting to ensure that we capture as much of the rain as possible and reuse is a very, very important aspect. So, and constant destilting of drains, which is a very, very important aspect. So, some of them are key.
Okay.
But Bansy, with your permission, I would like to come back to one point on mobility, which is still a very, very important issue.
An infrastructural issue.
Yes, and infrastructural issues. It is like this. If you look at Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, compare these three cities, our population is now not vastly different, because in the last 10 years, Bangalore has almost doubled its population because of its huge migration. It's a magnet, economic magnet for people across the country.
And it's still a growing city.
It's still
the
a
tragedy
growing
is
city.
It is a growing city, growing faster than most others.
Yes. However, in Mumbai, 80% of the people travel by public transport. The roads that you see and some of these new age highways and all of that is built only transports 20% of the people. 80% of the people travel by suburban rail.
By the train,
suburban rail, So, compare that with Bangalore. Do you know that Bangalore, 50%, only 50% of the people use public transport. And out of that, the modal share is the bus. 30 lakh people, over 30 lakh people go by bus. Whereas 75 kilometers of metro, only last month we were able to touch 9 lakh people. It is going to take us another 10 years before we can move substantive number of people by metro. We need a K-ride which will also come into stream. All this will happen in the medium term. Those investments are being made and they should be made at scale. However, in the interim, the population is growing. You will be surprised to note that in the last 10 years, our bus fleet has remained static at 5,500, whereas our population has doubled. Where are these people going to travel? We are adding road kilometers and flyovers. We are only adding more traffic, private traffic onto the roads. We are not adding public transport infrastructure, soft infrastructure that I call, onto the roads. We are building the roads. It's like buying a computer but not buying the software that will run the computer.
Absolutely.
So it's of no use.
No, I had this experience which I'd like to share. Just a few days ago, I was trying to get into the metro at about maybe between 4 and 5. And you won't believe it, the metro train was so packed, I couldn't get in. And I didn't want to, there's nothing else you can do. Of course, you can always try and push people, but and the next train which I waited 4 minutes to get into, perhaps metro can shorten that interval and make it 2.5 minutes or make it 2 minutes, because that 4 minutes waiting time is too much. The next train is equally packed. And what is worse, what is most painful is when you see a woman in a general, mixed compartment and she's crushed.
Yeah.
It's painful.
Yes.
It's painful. It's absolutely painful. And Bengaluru is doing nothing. It's, train after train, bogie after bogie. You see people traveling in utter misery. I mean, why can't we just have more trains?
I think.
Surely this is not a question to you, but B.PAC can do something about it.
Yes, we have been talking to BMRCL on adding number of coaches.
Yeah.
They are trying to add more coaches. I think you're absolutely right. The gap between during peak hours, the gap between one train and the other train, even 4 minutes is way too much.
Yeah.
You need to add more coaches. I think it's going to take another 6 months before more coaches can be added.
Because
there has been, what we need to do is not wait for the demand to overtake us first,
Absolutely.
but put the supply, and this is what China does very well. They make the supply so expansive and big that demand automatically picks up because people find comfort in going.
Yes.
Here we are so hesitant to make that big leap of faith, saying people will use it.
Absolutely.
And now
and there is no
people
other
have-
option.
And there is no other option.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the other thing is that there are several parts of the city which are still not well connected to metro. You need to have a good feeder bus system. And this feeder bus can work only when you have smaller bus sizes and very frequent. And these are the kinds of things we have been talking to BMTC, we have been talking to BMRCL, we have spoken to DALT, we spoke to the Chief Secretary. She's very, very supportive of this. She's already had a meeting and she has very clearly agreed that she is working with the Metro and the BMTC to ensure that good feeder bus system will be available. So I think we are hopeful that voices are getting heard. We just want speed of implementation. I think that is what we are looking for, because finally, but as a bottom line, if we can do all these good things, but if we don't add bus fleet from 5,500, make it 15,500, we are not going to see a very big change in the next 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely.
We will see only marginal, incremental change. Because we are going to add only incremental capacity with K-Ride and with Metro.
Okay. My last question to you, B.PAC has pioneered this civic leadership incubator program.
Yeah.
I think you've had some very fantastic success stories.
Yeah.
In our conversation earlier, you said, how about 150 of them have gone on to occupy party positions. 2 of them have been corporators, and one an MLA. What about this? How effective has this been?
We have run this program over 8 years. We are running the 9th batch right now. It's a 9-month program. We are very proud of this program. It's a very rigorous program asking for people who are very passionate citizens who want to be engaged politically and in a civic way. We teach them how over 9 months, how to the theory part of what we do in the political system and how to engage with the political system, as well as taking up issues on the ground like waste management, like water, like tree planting, like environment, and they have to execute projects on the ground for 6 months. So it's a very powerful program, and we are very happy to say that we have 350 successful graduates out of this 9-month program, and 150 of them have gone on to hold party positions. That itself is a testimony of the success of the program. And all the political parties have recognized the budding people who have aspirants who have come out of this, and that's how these people have got recognized to hold some of these party positions because of their virtue of their knowledge, the training that they get, the exposure that they've got, the passion that they have to contribute to the city. So we are extremely proud of this program. This is one of our flagship programs.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us with all those details. There it is, Ms. Revathy Ashok, CEO of B.PAC, telling us that good times ahead for Bengaluru. because there is a lot being done on the mobility, solid waste management and urban flooding front. With camera person Alan, this is Bansy for the New Indian Express Online.